So I think we hope that we're able to get this passed before the 29th of February. But right now, all indications are that we're leading up to another one of these hostage-taking situations.
Well, let's go to worst-case scenario here. You know, I heard this in a briefing. I can't say how I heard it, but I heard it this way. There's a concern in the administration at the highest level that there's three ways the economy can stop recovering. And you know the economy's getting better. We all know that. The unemployment rate's down to low 8s now. Hopefully it'll get below 8 by the election day for the interest of the Democratic Party. But the Republican Party doesn't want it to get below 8 for political reasons, if nothing else was important to them. So there's three ways to screw it up. Europe. And we can't control that probably. We're going to do Greece later in the show here. But then you've got the problem in the Middle East with a possible war with Iran, some form of war affecting oil supplies. And then you have the possibility that the Republican Congress just decides to create sabotage, to just make sure that the taxes, the Bush tax cuts stay, don't get terminated.
You call that the status quo.
Right, the status quo. You don't get the advantage of the Bush tax cuts for the middle class. You don't get the advantage of what you're trying to do on the payroll tax. Do you sense in the cloakrooms, do you hear any buzz of Republicans actually planning to demolish this recovery by not acting on this payroll tax and other factors?
Well, there's always been that subterranean buzz, but increasingly, and is heightened by this election. And, you know, frankly, you know, when you watch the State of the Union message, and the president's giving an address, and you talk about the economy coming back, and you talk about the American people doing better, and essentially they sit on their hands, it's more than subterranean. And you see this seeping in. I think you're right in terms of laying out those three prospects. But I think the American people are intelligent enough to understand who's on their side. And the Republicans have to be careful here. And I think, again, when you hear this from Senator DeMint, clearly it's something that Boehner understands. But whether or not he can control that caucus, the conference, is another matter altogether. He hasn't been able to in the past, and they still wield a great deal of influence.
Isn't it frightening that Jim DeMint has become the voice of reason on the Republican side? I mean, think about that. Anyway, amazing. He's the guy closer to the sane party of the old Republican Party. It must be wild to look across that aisle and see 200 crazy people once in a while. Anyway, thank you, Congressman.
Well, you're welcome. I served with Jim DeMint in the House. He's actually, one-on-one, a very reasonable and decent guy. His political views, on the other hand, well, that's another question. But thank you, Chris,
when he says you have to tame the crazies, I'm beginning to wonder. Anyway.